Bonsoir. Good evening, we're not live. I think there, at least one thing's missing here. We do have the amplification. We don't have any lights. I've been doing this for the last 15 years without any notes. This evening, gentle Hillel, gave me notes. But what he didn't give me is a light so that I can read them. Kol Kavod HaRabbanim, Your Excellencies, friends of UN Watch, our dear guests, thank you for being with us this evening. This marks the 16th year of UN Watch. It also marks the 10th anniversary of Hillel Neuer's coming with us as our executive director. We're blessed that Hillel is with us. And we're thrilled that you are with us. We have two cabinet ministers with us this evening from the government of Canada. Canada has been singularly important in the work of UN Watch. Most recently, in championing Israel's admission to WEOG. But consistently, over the decades, Canada has been there on the right side and for the right reasons. As Mr. Kenny told me earlier this evening, there are only 300,000 Jews in Canada. There are many more Muslims. There are many more minorities whose views may not coincide with the views that you'll be hearing this evening. But the government of Canada has done what was right, not for narrow political interests, not to further a party agenda, but to further the human agenda. And for that we commend and applaud the government of Canada. We're equally thrilled that in addition to the two ministers we have with us this evening, two ambassadors, one to Geneva, the Human Rights Commission, the representative of Canada in Geneva, but also the ambassador to the World Health Organization, the former ambassador to Japan. So I guess we're quadruply blessed. We also have the DCM with us this evening. So the Canadian participation is robust and enormously important to us. Minister Kenny, we thank you for coming from Canada. You'll be addressing us this evening. You'll also see Minister Kenny on film, and you'll see for yourself what a courageous, effective minister he is. We're also thankful this evening we have with us Minister Rosa Ambros, who came from Canada again to share with us in the pleasure of this evening. And we thank her for the trip, and we thank your government for all that you have done. We're delighted to be joined this evening with diplomatic representatives from around the world, from Hungary, which is always with us, Greece, of course, Israel, Ambassador Manure, a friend of all of you here this evening, Jamaica, Korea, St. Kitts and Nevis, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and in my heart, the most important, the United States. Excellencies all, we thank you for joining with us. We thank you for what you do every day in Geneva, and we thank you for your participation with us in the important work that you are doing and that we are doing together. Thank you for being with us this evening. I also want to thank all the guests with us this evening, many of whom have traveled from around the world to join us. From France, we have Dr. Richard Pesquet, who has been the head of CRIF, the Organized Jewish Community in France, and his lovely wife. We have with us our dear friend Cecilia and Jackie, who have come to us from Tel Aviv, the Metonics. I first met them, believe it or not, in 1975 in front of the King David Hotel. So it's been a long and close relationship. They've been wonderful friends of UN Watch. We thank all of you who have come distances to join with us this evening. Very briefly, I'd like to give you an update on where we have been in UN Watch since you and I met together collectively a year ago. The media outreach of UN Watch has been nothing short of spectacular. Whether it be Facebook or Twitter, UN Watch is ahead, doubling its presence on Facebook and Twitter, the following it has, the relationships it's developed. And on YouTube has had for UN Watch an astounding number of persons who have watched Hillel and the rest of our splendid staff. 3 million people from around the world have seen UN Watch on YouTube. That's a very significant number for a relatively small organization here in Geneva. The impact has been significant, and we would not have that impact were it not for your support and your encouragement. What has UN Watch done during the past year? Some of you know, but it has been important work and continues to be. UN Watch revealed the irony that Iran of all countries, was running for a seat on the UN Human Rights Council. It sounds like an oxymoron, but it was a fact. UN Watch stood up and denounced the candidacy of Iran, and Iran withdrew its application. In November, when a UN interpreter said sub silencio, but everyone could hear her, wireless attention to Israel, you'll see the clip tonight, when there's so many bad things happening around the world, that was picked up by UN Watch and amplified and sent around the world. And in December, when UN Rapporteur Richard Falk absurdly accused Israel of genocidal acts, it was UN Watch who spoke out and brought about his condemnation of Ban Ki-moon and the U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Samantha Powell, and others. It is UN Watch that steps up every time when Israel is being falsely accused. And it is UN Watch that stands up every day for universal human rights. Again, this February, we hosted the Geneva Human Rights Summit, where we had some 12 victims of human rights from around the world on the world stage telling their story, naming and blaming and shaming. This does not take place in the Human Rights Council. When UN Watch has brought persons who've been the victims of brutality, political oppression, imprisonment before the Human Rights Council has tried to silence them. But UN Watch and they have spoken out. The message has been delivered. We're not a majority in the world today, but we're a precious, vital minority that speaks for all of humankind. The combination of Israel, a country born with the message of universal human rights, and our advocacy of universal human rights is a powerful combination that will triumph in our lifetimes and in our days. We have one of those great heroes with us this evening, a woman who at the age of 15 was imprisoned in Iran, was brutally assaulted, and barely escaped with her life, now living in Canada, but has not forgotten the tyrannical regime in Iran, and has continued to speak out, telling her story and the story of other persons who have been similarly maltreated. Marina Nemat will be one of the recipients this evening, along with Mr. Kennedy, of our recognition. They are more than deserving. They're today's true heroes, heroes for humankind, heroes for us. And another hero for humankind and hero for us is our dear friend Hillel Neuer. 10 years as the executive director of UN Watch. Our ability to bestow upon him his worth in rupees is quite limited. So we're going to do it in something that's more transparent. Some would call it plastic. I'd rather give it a more glamorous name, but it does symbolize how we feel about Hillel and our desire to recognize what has been his contribution. Can we see? Hillel, you only get what's in the frame. Oh, a picture. Thank you. I'm not an innocent bystander in Hillel's success. I'm in part responsible for his being hired. I was even then chair of UN Watch. Hillel was a lawyer in New York with a very distinguished firm who had decided that he didn't want to be giving his talents solely to the law. He wanted to give to a much wider cause, something closer to his heart. So he left Paul Weiss, one of our nation's great law firms, and joined UN Watch. What he has brought to us has been truly remarkable. Inventive, indefatigable, courageous, and relentless. All important. There would be no Geneva Human Rights Summit without Hillel. There would not be the magnificent staff that we have today with Leon and Hannah and the others, Ariel. There wouldn't be this evening. There wouldn't have been the 3-day demonstration that we carried out in response to Durban 2. There would not be all the accomplishments of UN Watch were it not for Hillel. True, UN Watch was on the map with Morris Abram and the persons he had brought along with him. Hannah Gaywood was still with us. Michael Colson was here this evening. But Hillel has taken UN Watch from that promising beginning to the glory days that we're now witnessing and sharing in. So we say to Hillel, from strength to strength, Hazak, Hazak, may you continue for many more decades. I personally don't know what 10 years means. It doesn't fit into anything in my lifetime. All I can say is rejoice in every one of them. I'm now rejoicing in my 9th. So for you, may be Mea Basrim 120.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I don't have any big speech planned because we're still before the first course, and I've learned not to get in the way of a gathering of a lot of Jewish people and the first course. I just do want to say thank you. I want to thank Alfred, who's been our dedicated chair. He often goes unthanked, but anything we can possibly ask him, he does for us. And they say if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, and Alfred is that person. I also want to thank the board of UN Watch, our many supporters who are here tonight and around the world, and friends. Friends of UN Watch who have enabled me. You know, they say if you choose a job that you love, you will never work another day in your life. So I want to thank everyone who's enabled me to hold a job that I love and a mission that I continue to believe in. I've had the privilege to work with an excellent team, a dedicated group of people without whom nothing we accomplished could be done. Hannah Gaywood, Leon Saltiel, Ariel Herzog, Hadida, Shayla Raqqa, and others who have been with us for many years. You know, since I arrived in Geneva in March 2004, the community here has welcomed me as family. Indeed, Jack Mafar, when I came, the first thing he said to me was, Hillel, you are like my son, and indeed that's how it's been. So really, thanks to everyone for being so welcoming all these years. To move on with the program, I just want to, before we have our first course, just share with you a clip in a moment. And you know, Alfred mentioned the Geneva Summit. One of the great things that UN Watch does is once a year brings human rights victims from around the world, famous dissidents with 20 other human rights groups, countries that are often neglected at the United Nations. When the Human Rights Council elected China, Russia, Cuba, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, we brought their victims, some of their most famous victims, to testify here in Geneva at our summit. And I actually want to acknowledge the Canadian ambassadors here with us, Alyssa Goldberg and her wonderful staff, who every year host in their mission a very valuable meeting one-on-one with the victims, the dissidents, and diplomats. And it's a mission that's been so supportive of everything that we're doing. And I want to thank you, Ambassador Goldberg, and all your team. So I want to show you a clip. You know, one of the things that UN Watch does is reaches out to young people and is a part of the Geneva community in every sense. And every year for the past few years, the Geneva International School sends a class to come to the Geneva Summit and prepares with the class months in advance to examine the country situations, the human rights issues, and the victims that we bring. And then they participate in the summit and then write about it for their own newspaper. And 2 students from the International School this year on their own did a student film of just 2 minutes. And I'd like to show you that student video for just 2 minutes. If you please, we'll play the video. I believe the 2 filmmakers, the 2 students from the International School are present. Are they here? Joe Cook and Melissa McLean. If you're here, will you please stand up? Thank you for your excellent work. And before we break, let me just again say how honored I am to, on behalf of UN Watch, to have so many very important people here tonight. Ministers from my country, from Canada, our honoree, Minister Jason Kennedy, and Minister Rona Ambrose, the Health Minister of Canada, is here as well. It's really wonderful. And to have Ambassador Goldberg, Ambassador Fried from Canada, and Ambassador Manor and Ambassador Caspi, who's come from Bern, to be with us. It's really wonderful. And there's so many other members of the diplomatic corps who are here with us tonight. Thank you so much, and bon appetit. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, our next speaker is a dear friend of UN Watch, but I'm afraid he's trying to put us out of business. For 20 years, UN Watch has been fighting to try to get equal treatment for Israel in the regional groups. For 20 years, Israel was denied membership in any regional group, and Evi Manor came to Geneva, and with the help of some friends who were mentioned before, what do you know, Israel is now a full member of the Western regional group. It's a great accomplishment. And since Evi's been here, Israel has joined IMEC, the Western group at the ILO. Israel has joined CERN. And Evi, you're slowly putting us out of business. So Evi, you're doing a great job. And I'd like to invite to give greetings our dear friend, the Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Israel, Eviatar Manor.
Minister Kenny, Ms. Nemat, Alfred, 10 years old Hillel, dear friends and supporters of UN Watch. It's a great pleasure to be here among you tonight and congratulate Hillel and his colleagues for the great work they are doing. Israel had an exciting year, full of achievements since last year's Gala event. We participated in our UPR, the Universal Periodic Report, a human rights mechanism, and concluded the process successfully. We became full members of CERN, the only non-European country to achieve such a status. We joined the Western European and Others Group, WEOG, a long-time goal of Israel in Geneva. We have become members of IMEC, the International Maritime Employers Council, the Western group in the International Labour Organization, and I've also concluded a successful presidency of the Conference on Disarmament, if I may say so. I feel very good and very confident when I walk the halls of the UN. Despite the bias and the criticism, I can sense the respect of both friends and adversaries for Israel, for our efforts, and for Israel's position and moral values. In the Middle East, instability, violence, and poverty are common. Iran pursues its efforts to attain a military nuclear capability and means of delivery. Syria collapses into a black hole. Libya no longer exists. Iraq, Tunisia, and Yemen are in continuous political turmoil, and Egypt struggles to find its way. Non-state actors are gaining stature and strength and dangerous weaponry. In this environment, Israel is an island of stability and prosperity. But they say a Jew gets up worried every morning and then opens the radio to learn why. And there are good reasons for concern. First, we exist in a difficult environment which has become more threateningly unstable due to political and violent upheavals in the Arab world. Secondly, the global economy is in a precarious state, and Israel is a small export-driven economy. And finally, we have not yet reached a peace settlement with our Palestinian and Arab neighbors. The conflict persists, and this has implications for us here in Geneva. The Palestinians are talking again of upgrading their status in the UN system. The Human Rights Council has not become the Gush Etzion Regional Council yet. Politicized resolutions in professional UN bodies are still prevalent. The latest one was adopted yesterday at the World Health Assembly. The mandate of the rapporteur on the Palestinian territories is still biased and a discriminating one, and requests for reports on the situation in the Palestinian territories multiply. So there is much work left to do. And I'm happy Hillel and his colleagues are here to help in carrying the load. I want to thank them for supporting Israel, for projecting the reality of Israel, for disseminating important information on violations of human rights around the globe, violations which are overlooked due to political machinations, and for working to set the right priorities for human rights here in Geneva. For all this and more, they deserve a grand ovation, your generous support, and Israel's gratitude. I would like to ask for your indulgence for one more minute and address myself to the two honorees of the evening. Minister Kenny, Canada has been a strong and steadfast supporter of Israel in Geneva. But I can assure you that the support is not taken for granted, and we work hard to earn it. I would like to commend the excellent relations I have with Canadian Ambassador Elissa Goldberg. Congratulations, Minister Kenny, for the 2014 Moral Courage Award. I would like to salute Ms. Marina Nemat for the 2014 Maurice B. Abram Human Rights Award. All of us have a huge respect for a person prepared to sacrifice oneself for her beliefs. So good evening to you all, and thank you very much.
Without further ado, we're going to move to the presentation of our first award, and I have the privilege to call up the chair of UN Watch International Outreach, Celia Michonik, dear friend, who's doing great things for us, promoting UN Watch human rights events in New York, Vienna, Miami, Los Angeles, around the world. Thank you, Celia.
I have the honor to present today Marina. Tonight, we honor the legacy of Ambassador Maurice B. Abraham, who founded UN Watch here in Geneva 21 years ago, following his term as U.S. Permanent Representative. Ambassador Abram was a pioneering civil rights lawyer who marched arm in arm with Reverend Martin Luther King, establishing the principle in American law of one man, one vote. For 5 decades, He was at the center of human rights activism in America and in the United Nations. In past years, the UN Watch Award bearing his name has been given to such eminent figures as Russian dissident Garry Kasparov, Chinese dissident Yang Li, and Dr. Masouda Jalal, the first woman in Afghanistan to run for president. Tonight, the award will go to an outstanding human rights activist who embodies the human rights principles of Ambassador Abraham, Mrs. Marina Nemat. I would like to ask you now to please watch the video on the screen. Over more than 2 years in prison, Marina was tortured and lived under constant threat of execution, but they were not able to break her spirit. She was eventually released and made her way to Canada. What her torturers failed to realize was that Marina was the perfect witness to tell the story about a dark system of brutal repression that sadly still goes on in Iran today. They didn't realize that thanks to her unusually strong spirit, Marina would be determined to give voice to the suffering and experiences of her fellow prisoners. Today, Marina inspires large audiences around the world through the power of her pen and her voice. Her memoir, Prisoner of Tehran, has become an international bestseller. Marina has spoken at UN Watch Human Rights Summits in Geneva, New York, and Vienna, where I had the privilege of spending time with her this past November. She has also testified on behalf of our organization at the Human Rights Council. And so tonight, on behalf of UN Watch, I am proud to present our 2014 Maurice Abraham Human Rights Award to a woman that has dedicated her life to bearing witness to atrocities and to steering the conscience of humanity to protect the human rights of the voiceless victims of Iran. Marina, please, could you come to the...
I'm not usually at a loss for words. You know, people who know me, they know that doesn't happen. But this is one of those moments, honestly, my brain just went blank for a moment. I'm grateful is an understatement. UN Watch has become family to me. And I think Hillel knows that, and Ariel. She knows that. Thank you. I mean, again, you guys have given me an opportunity that no one else has managed to give. And that was to face my torturers at the UN Human Rights Council. The representatives of Iran, Hillel remembers, they were sitting only meters from us. And the whole time I was talking, now I was reading from something because I had a 3-minute window, 2 minutes and something. But I glanced at them a few times, and not even for a moment, they looked at me. And I wish they had. But thank you, Hillel, because that is something that will stay with me. And I dedicate this award, and I dedicate those moments to my good friend, Shahnoosh Behzadi. She died at the age of 15 in October 1981, even before I was arrested. She can rest in peace knowing that I will not let it go. I don't say this from a place of anger or hatred, because anger and hatred cannot carry what I feel. Anger and hatred just cannot do it for me. Whatever it is that I feel, she knows what it is. So I dedicate this to her, and I have pledged to my friends, to my cellmates who have survived, that I will stand for this till the last breath that I take. I am a survivor, a witness, no more, no less. Yes, I am a wife and a mother, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm a Canadian citizen, and I'm very proud of that as well. But beyond that, above that, I am a witness. And a witness becomes nothing, absolutely nothing, if he or she does not testify. And please allow me to thank Canada. Minister Kenny, Rona, Minister Ambrose, thank you so, so much. Now, I don't think you can imagine what it means. I don't know, maybe you can. What it means when your country spits you out. I wish I could say like garbage, but I mean what I was is less than that. And when you're thrown into a world, we went to Spain first, to Caritas, and then we went to Hungary right after the fall of communism, and it wasn't pretty, let me put it that way. And when we had nowhere to go, I mean, we had $200 left, we were hungry, we were lonely. My child, Michael, he had a serious kidney disorder. And we were truthful about it. We told the Canadian officials, we told them, our son is sick. And the Canadian ambassador in Budapest, he with open arms, he took us in. So what Canada has done, I mean, that Canadian passport is beyond any gift that anybody has ever given us, because it gave me the opportunity to stand again. And I say it literally, because in Evin prison, they tied me to a bare wooden bed. I was lying down on my stomach. They took off my socks and my shoes, and they lashed the soles of my feet with a length of cable. And when I say cable, I mean cable, industrial strength. Imagine a garden hose, but not hollow and with metal inside of it. After they were done beating me, I sat up, I looked at my feet, and I laughed. It was funny. My feet looked like overgrown party balloons with toes on them, color indigo blue. The pain is undescribable. It is like being hit by lightning again and again and again. And I was praying to die, and I didn't. And now I know why. Shahnoosh is dead. Many of my friends are dead. They are buried in mass graves. Now, you have heard about what Boko Haram has done to Nigerian teenagers. This happened on April 14th, and it took the media 3 weeks to cover the story. I was fuming online, on Facebook, talking to Amnesty International here and there, trying to get to my journalist friends, Michelle Shepard at the Star. She was instrumental to bring the story to life, but it took a lot of effort. And it amazed me that in the 80s, in Iran, the government of Iran did on a massive scale what Boko Haram is doing right now. They took me and my friends out of our mother's arms at the age of 15, 16, 17, even 13 years of age, and they took us to Evin prison. They tied us to bare wooden beds, and they beat us to a pulp. They put many of us in front of firing squads. I was forced to marry my interrogator. It was their way of legalizing rape. And this happened not only to me, not only to 50, not only to 200, not only to 1,000, but at least to about 40,000 young women. And I'm here today in front of you about 30 years later, and I beg of you one thing. Please acknowledge us. Please speak out against such atrocity that is taking the lives and the dignity of young women, not only in Nigeria, but in many countries around the globe, including in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The people of Iran are hostages of their own government. Please, by acknowledging us, by talking about this, by giving it value, please keep it alive. And please stand in the way of the Iranian regime. It is not only the nuclear bomb that is an issue. It is an issue. Don't get me wrong. But if we are negotiating with Iran, if the United States, for example, and other countries are negotiating with Iran, I beg of them to put human rights in the front and center. My friend Shahnoush, she deserved it. She was not good in math. I was not good in math. We used to study math together. Every morning when we had math, we would get together, go over the problems. She was afraid of spiders. I was afraid of cockroaches. If a spider showed up, I took care of it. If a cockroach showed up, she did. It worked well between us. And I cannot even begin to understand how is it possible that she's been dead for more than 30 years. She remained 15 years old, but I'm 49. And my life belongs to her more than it belongs to me. Thank you so, so much again to UN Watch, to every single one of you. Alyssa, thank you. Thank you for your time. We had a beautiful meeting this morning and we talked. Thank you, thank you. Please don't underestimate the power of what you can do. Again, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, but I survived and I didn't, and I do not take no for an answer. One person can indeed change the world. One person can indeed save lives. Thank you so, so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. It's really a privilege for us to help your sacred work. And I encourage everyone tonight, tomorrow, go on YouTube and type Marina Nemat, UN Watch, or Geneva Summit, and you'll see some of the incredible testimonies. We don't give our speakers that much time here tonight, but take a look at some of the amazing testimonies that she's delivered before international audiences. It's quite extraordinary. Before we hear from our keynote speaker, we'll have the main course. So we'll be back soon. Thank you.